नंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारे यमुना तीरा वनचारे जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारे जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जयो कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जयो कृष्ण बलराम जयो निताई गौरंग जयो निताई गौरंग जयो निताई गौरंग जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। वृंद देवी तुलसी महारानी की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation, text number 12. मैत्रेय उवाच प्रियाया प्रियमन्विच्छन् कर्दमो योगमास्थितः विमानं कामगं क्षत्तस् तर्ह्येवा विरचीकरत्। मैत्रेय उवाच प्रियाया प्रियमन्विच्छन् कर्दमो योगमास्थितः विमानं कामगं क्षत्तस् तर्ह्येवा विरचीकरत्। योगमास्थितः मैत्रेय उवाच प्रियाया प्रियमन्विच्छन् कर्दमयोगमाश्रितः ज्ञानं कामगं शक्तः एवाविचीकरात्. Synonyms, what for meaning? Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya, Uvacha, said, Priyaya, of his beloved wife, Priyam, the pleasure, Anvichan, seeking, Kardamaha, the sage Kardama, Yogam, yogic power, Astitaha, exercised, Vimanam, an airplane, Kamagam, moving at will, Kshattaha, O Vidura, Tarhi, instantly, Eva, quite, Avirachikarat, he produced. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Maitreya continued, O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. Please repeat this translation. Maitreya continued, O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here the words Yogam Astitaha are significant. The sage Kardama was completely perfect in yoga. As the result of real yoga practice, there are 8 kinds of perfection. The yogi can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, or lighter than the lightest. He can achieve anything he likes. He can create even a planet. He can establish influence over anyone, etc. In this way, yogic perfection is achieved, and after this, one can achieve the perfection of spiritual life. Thus, it was not very wonderful for Kardama Muni to create a mansion in the air, according to his own desire, to fulfill the desire of his beloved wife. He at once created the palace which is described in the following verses. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Mukam Karoti Vajalam Pangum Langeti Muratkaratamam Shri Gurum Paramanandam Chaitanyeshwara. So we are discussing from these pages of Srimad-Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 23rd, which is Devahuti's lamentation. So Devahuti, being the mother of Supreme Lord himself and wife of such a great sage like Kardama Muni, what is her consciousness? So now, for example, we get to see consciousness of Mahabhagavatas, great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, like Bhishma Deva, part of Mahabharata. So these personalities are described in Srimad-Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures like Mahabharata, Ramayana, and Upanishads, Puranas. So to give us a glimpse of how their life would be, so that we can take them as role models. Today, even in modern world, the same concept is there, right? Like for example, some big film star is there, and suppose some movie of his or hers gets clicked, becomes a hit, then everybody will be behind them for advertisement, some promotion of some brand, like for example, some popular sports shoes, or some television, some electronic items, some mobile. And next film, suppose if it gets flopped, then nobody bothers about them, isn't it? So it's their position is very flickering, so they are in a great anxiety to maintain that position of theirs, because if they are not popular, and if their movies are continuously not becoming hit, super hit, one after another, so nobody will be bothered to go behind them. So it's a kind of gamble. Their life is a gamble. Nothing is sure actually. No matter how much one is confident, somebody may say, okay, first 10 movies mine, everything is hit. One cannot be very sure that 11th movie will be a hit. So anything can happen. So material world, there is no guarantee that this will achieve, this will happen with me. So material world, everything is indefinite. Whereas we see even after 5000 years, at least minimum 5000 years have elapsed, and Krishna was giving this knowledge to Bhagavad-gita. Krishna says, Imam vivasvate yogam proktamam aham avyayam. So sun god Vivaswan, millions of years ago, he gave the knowledge of Bhagavad-gita. But then Arjuna asked this question, how, my dear Lord Krishna, I am your contemporary, we both are almost of the same age. Few years Arjuna was younger to Krishna. But other than that, how can we believe that you imparted this knowledge to the sun god, who is millions of years senior to us? So he says that, no, I had imparted this knowledge. That time you were also there, because Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddhasman means they are eternally liberated souls. The category of living entities who never fall down from their spiritual position. What is falling down from spiritual position? So Prabhupada explains many a times that it's very, very simple. Just like, for example, human beings are considered as marginal potency. So because marginal potency, because we are sometimes in the material platform, sometimes on the spiritual platform. So similarly, material modes are the three modes of material nature. So Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna. So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad-gita that always there is a constant fight between these three material modes. Everybody wants to be superior in this material world, if you see in the outside world. And similarly, the modes is also, goodness wants to be taking over passion and ignorance. Passion wants to be superior compared to goodness and ignorance. Ignorance wants to influence its power over goodness and passion. So the field of activity for this material modes to act is the living entities. So the living entities are actually not in their full control. Somebody may say that I have control of my life. Sometimes we read some articles, some newspapers, news. I am full in control of my life. I can decide what I want to achieve in my life. I can purchase what I want in my life. I have so much of bank balance. I have money. I have these kind of facilities. I can get anything in my life. But the living entities are not fully under their own control. Actually, they are under the influence of the material modes of nature. So sometimes that's why the living entities are in the mode of goodness. And what are the qualities of the mode of goodness? Krishna explains in Bhagavad-gita. You will be very serene. Your likings will be in the in the mode of happiness. The happiness, how you derive, that is also mentioned. Everybody is looking for happiness. Anandamayo Bhyasat. The soul is looking for happiness. But the procedure the soul follows to get happiness, that is described in the mode of goodness or either passion or ignorance. So similarly, in the passion, somebody who is very much interested to eat very spicy food stuff, and his thinking will also be like that. So it is said that whatever you eat, you also become like that. Your actions, thoughts also are directed by the food we eat, because whatever food we eat, ultimately it is getting converted into our cells. So over a period of time, that's why Prabhupada says in one conversation, like we are neither in the mode of goodness, passion or ignorance. We want to be transcending these three. Actually, Krishna also says that to Arjuna. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. So these three material modes are also having its own limitations. Maybe mode of goodness is the best compared to passion and ignorance, but that is also not best because it is always tinged with modes of passion and ignorance. So we have to locate ourselves in the Shuddha Sattva platform. So Shuddha Sattva platform are the devotees who are all described in this literature, Srimad-Bhagavatam, Amala Purana. So Amala Purana means again there is no tinge, contamination of the modes of passion and ignorance. That is why all these devotees described in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, they were all actually, most of them, they were all Nitya Siddha devotees who are all on the Shuddha Sattva platform. So we should have them as our role models. Just like naturally somebody may get attracted to one particular type of devotee. Somebody may get attracted to one particular kind of service. There is Navavidha Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtana, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada, Sevanam, Archana, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So like this, somebody may get interested in learning philosophy, hearing more, reading more. Somebody may be about preaching or singing, kirtans. Somebody may be interested in honoring prasadam, which is all of us. So prasadam is very interesting for everybody. So like this, somebody may be engaged in deity worship. They have their own interest. So like this, whoever has got that taste, that means somewhat their constitutional position or whatever upbringing they had. Yesterday we were hearing Stoka Maharaj was explaining how samskaras, the kind of environment we were brought up, we were born and brought up, and even previous lifetimes, innumerable lifetimes, we were all have gone through. We don't know how many prarabdha karmas, how many different kinds of bijas are there in us. Some are fructified, some are about to fructify, some have already fructified. So we are as individual souls, we are all in our own environment actually. So everyone has their own environment. Just like now Bangalore is very cold, Chennai is quite hot, some other place may be very, very hot. So we are all conditioned by that. Now when we move from different natures, then we will understand that, okay, this is not fixed, this is not permanent. Just like Shitoshna Sukha Dukha that Krishna gives. The summers, winters, rainy season, nothing is fixed. Today everything is, although meteorological department predicts the weather, it's not 100% accurate. Suddenly it may start raining, suddenly it may be becoming very cold, becomes very hot. So nothing is predictable. So but these things, the facts that are given in Srimad-Bhagavatam, they are all absolute truth, eternal truth. So irrespective of time, place and circumstances, they can be taken as the gold standard of spiritual life. So either we accept some personality which is very liking to us from Srimad-Bhagavatam, or else we will take somebody else as role model who are on the material platform, who keeps changing, whose positions keeps changing. So like this, so today's verse it says Maitreya Uvacha. So Maitreya was also very great sage, very senior sage. So this is a part of conversation that is happening between Vidura and Maitreya. Vidura also, we know, such a great personality. So Vidura happens to be the incarnation of Yamaraj, who is another Mahabhagavata. We have 12 Mahajanas. Who are the 12 Mahajanas? Swayambhu, Narada Shambho, Kumara Kapilo Munihi, Prahlado Janako Bhishmo, Balir Vaiyasakir Vayam. So these are the 12 names. So Swayambhu means Lord Brahma. Why Lord Brahma is called Swayambhu? Because he is born out of Lord Vishnu himself. Like generally in the material world, a child will have father and mother, or any species, for example, out of 84 lakh species will have father and mother. But Brahma is so special that only from Lord Vishnu's navel that sprouted a lotus flower, and from that Lord Brahma appeared. So he is called Swayam. But then Narada Muni, again the Manasaputra of Lord Brahma, he is also great Mahajana, whose only job is to keep on preaching. travel throughout the universes and keep on preaching. So like this, it lists Narad Muni and then Shambhu, Lord Shiva, who is one of the four acharyas in the four Vaishnava Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and then Kapila Muni also, Manu, and then Bali Maharaj also, grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. Shri Shri Krishna Balram ki jai. So like this, Shastras give 12 Mahajanas. So we should have role models among these 12 Mahajanas or any of the great Acharyas like Srila Prabhupada and 6 Goswamis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So like that, there are so many other sages as well, like Maitreya Rishi. And then they were, when Vidura, we all know how Mahabharata war ensued, and then Pandavas became victorious over the Kauravas. Before the start of the war, Duryodhana, who happens to be the leading team member of Kauravas, who led ultimately everyone into destruction, including himself, he actually insults Vidura. And then Vidura, what happens? He, Vidura happens to be in this material life, happens to be a Dasiputra. That was the curse because of Mandavya Muni. So Mandavya Muni, the story, the pastime in short, it goes like this. Once upon a time, Vidura was, because he was in his original position, he was Yamaraj. So while he was executing his duties, in this material world, see, no laws are perfect, is it? When we are executing some material duty, our decisions could be wrong, sometimes management decision could be wrong, but we have to know that everything is actually going on according to the will of the Lord, will of providence. Either for some decision I could be responsible to some extent, someone else could be responsible for that extent, but ultimate cause of all causes is Sarva Karana Karanam, Govinda Madi Purusham. So Krishna is the supreme cause. Immediate causes may be different, so many causes. But then while Vidura as Yamaraj, he was actually discharging his duties of punishing sinful people. So it so happens that one day one sage was punished to death, and that sage's name was Mandukya Rishi, Mandavya Muni. And then this Rishi was so powerful that he gets astonished. He recollects that in this my lifetime I have not committed any sinful activity. Then he goes to Yamaraj, that body. He questions Yamaraj. It's not possible for an ordinary soul to go to Yamaloka in the present body, unless some body is spiritual body or materially very spiritual body, materially very special body. So this Mandavya Muni goes and asks question, on what basis you are giving this punishment to? So then Yamaraj says that, my dear Muni, when you were a child, as a small child of 5 years of age, one day you had pierced one insect. Because of that sinful activity, now you are being punished to death. And the punishment was such that in the olden days, the javelin was supposed to be inserted from the rectum of a person and it would come out of his head, and he would be put left, he would be the javelin, the thing would be inserted and left it to open till he dies. And then he said, no, this childhood I had done, I don't remember, because children are generally considered very, very clean in their hearts. That's how Kumaras, the 4 great sages, they chose to remain as Kumaras of small boys, because in children people are very, very nice, because the seeds are not fructified yet. There is no these 6 enemies of human beings, Arishat Vargas, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsara. These things have not yet fructified in children generally, especially of age 5 and all. So Kumaras also had continued, and then he gives reference that no, this in childhood whatever acts are committed up to the age of 12 or 13, the activities, the sinful activities are not taken into consideration. And for that to happen, Yamaraj gives the reference that no, suppose fire is there. If the child goes and touches the fire, will the fire excuse? No, right? The fire will burn the child also. Even though the child is not aware, is ignorant of the fact that if I touch my finger the fire is going to burn me. So that is the thing he says, and then okay, I'll accept this punishment. So then he accepts it. And another the pastime connected to this which goes is, Mandavya Muni actually was captured by the particular king, and then this king, what happened, this king had a very huge treasury in his kingdom, and one day it so happened that some robbers actually looted his booty from his kingdom and they escaped and went. And then the soldiers of this king went on chasing in the forest, and in the forest this sage was meditating, and he had a small kutir, small ashram he had. And then what happens, the soldiers come in search. By then what happened, the sage was in deep meditation, he didn't notice what was happening around. So these robbers, what they had done was, they had come and hid in his kutir along with the stolen items, the whatever gold, the booty they had stolen. And then when the soldiers went inside his kutir and searched, and they were able to catch hold of these thieves and also the stolen items, and then they capture everybody along with this king, this sage who was meditating. So they chastise him, saying that he is doing some drama, he was closing his eyes, he was actually one who planned, who teamed up with the soldiers to steal king's items. So then this king was becomes very angry at the sage and all these people, and then actually this king punishes all these people to death by this procedure. And then when everybody were pierced, the ordinary thieves, they died, and except for one person, everybody else died. So what was that person? Who was that person? Was this Mandukya Muni, because he had done so much austerities, so great tapasya, that although the javelin was pierced through his body, it was not further crossing beyond his stomach. So that is how he gets the name Mandavya. That means the rod. Then king realizes his mistake. What happens is, after a month, the soldiers, they come back and see all others have died except this sage. And then this sage says that, without committing any sinful activity, I have been simply punished, and because of this I am suffering all these things. But all these people have died, they died. Because I have not committed any sin, I am still alive. He says like that. And then the message was related to the king, and that particular king gets surprised. Oh, this grade is not ordinary. And then the thing was cut from his body, because they could not, if they remove it back again, the sage would have died, they thought. And then they cut the javelin to whatever extent it had gone into his stomach. So the small portion of the iron continued to remain in the body of Mandavya Muni, and he extensively traveled. And it is also said that he visited our place near Vaikunta Hill, Bangalore. So there is a Mandavya Muni cave even today. That's where even our Rajadi Raja Govinda deity, the temple is standing. So it's a very special pastime. And then actually that's why he curses Yamaraj to become son of a Shudra in the material world. And then that's how Vidura is born in this material world. So there was the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. When Vidura was insulted by Duryodhana, saying that you are a Dasi Putra, and then your birth is of very, very low category, and etc., etc., he scolds. Although you are eating the food from the Kauravas are maintaining you, you are siding with the Pandavas, because Vidura was the one who saved Pandavas from that Shallak house which was supposed to be burnt. So he gives them hint like this. So every time, because Pandavas were pure devotees, eternal associates of the Lord, and Vidura was a pure devotee in his original position as Yamaraj Mahajana, so he was always serving the devotees. And then when Duryodhana insults Vidura just before the beginning of the Mahabharata war, Vidura takes this also as will of providence, will of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and then he didn't want to participate anyway, either on the side of the Kauravas or Pandavas. So taking this as a blessing of the Lord, he extensively goes on pilgrimage on various places. And then when he goes to a place where Maitreya Rishi was meditating, he starts discussing Krishna Katha. So Prabhupada also gives us this instruction again and again. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyancha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. So basically, atyahara, accumulating or eating more than one's necessity, and prajalpa means talking katha or discussing topics that are unconnected with Krishna, not directly with Krishna or Krishna's pure devotees. So these are the things which disturbs our devotional service. So Vidura was a pure devotee, so whenever he got opportunity, he discussed Krishna Katha, topics related to Krishna. So he was inquiring extensively Maitreya, explain about Lord's various activities, about this creation and all that. So that's how in this third canto status quo, this is the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. This is a part of their conversation, and one of the topics is he explains different incarnations of the Lord, like Lord Kapila. And then when Lord Kapila's incarnation had to be explained, he gives the the foundation, like who were Kapila's parents, Devahuti and Kardama Muni. And then that's how this chapter also says. And then Devahuti's lamentation. Why Devahuti is lamenting is because towards the end of the chapter we will come to know that Kardama Muni leaves Devahuti and goes to tapasya. So he accepts sannyas and goes away. So in today's verse, the previous verse also, yesterday we saw that she was requesting that Devahuti was very sincerely serving her husband. She was a daughter of Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni's wife. For so many years she served without asking for anything. So because of that reason she had become very skinny. She had not cared for her body. Then Kardama Muni becomes very pleased with her. Generally the body is very dear to a person in this material world. We are attached to our body. That is why bodily concept of life, Prabhupada says. We are all attached to our bodies, but Devahuti, although she was the daughter of great king like Swayambhuva Manu, she was the princess. She gave up all her consideration and served Kardama Muni, her husband, thinking that this is my only duty. So Prabhupada also tells many times that we have to be very focused on our life. We may be attached to our body, we may be having a lot of problems, mental problems, bodily problems, emotional problems, some spiritual problems, but nevertheless the problems, just like seasons, come and go. What is fixed is our devotional service. So that is what she had this instruction from her great husband also, and that was her upbringing. And then when she serves her husband very nicely, Kardama Muni becomes very pleased with her. And then in today's verse we see that Priyaya Priyam Annivichan. So Priyaya, the beloved wife of sage Kardama, Anvichan, seeking. So she is seeking, she is requesting, she is placing some request before this great sage. And then having a child. Generally it is said that people in this world, they marry for what? For expanding their pleasure. So the root meaning of the word Stri is also mentioned in the Vedic scriptures as she expands the attachment in this material world. So if the husband-wife devotees are non-devotees, if they don't know the ultimate goal of life, then what happens? They eternally get entangled life after life in this material world. Whereas Prabhupada established ISKCON, Devi Varnashrama system. So it is, there may be somebody who is doing the job of a Brahmana, service of a Kshatriya, of a Vaishya or a Shudra, or somebody may be Brahmachari, somebody may be Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So these 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas within ISKCON is Devi Varnashrama system. So it is transcendental to the regular Varnashrama system. So because everybody's goal in life is one, to go back to home, back to Godhead, and engage in this lifetime completely in the devotional service of the Lord. So that is why, but nevertheless, as a matter, because she was serving her husband for so many years, now she had placed a request to have a son from her husband. So that was her request. And then Kardamo Yogam Astitaha. So Kardama, being already very pleased with the sincere devotional attitude, the service attitude of her wife, he actually benedicts, he accedes to the request of her wife. And then what he does, he had lot of yogic credit, merits in its accounts. Just like everybody has different bank balance today's material world. Somebody may be having some amount, somebody may be having some things in possession. So what is the possession with the sages? The position with the sages is their tapasya, tapashakti. So similarly, Prabhupada refers in another conversation. So in ISKCON devotees, what is the possession? Greatest possession with ISKCON devotees is tapasya. So tapasya means sadhana, and devotional service credits. How many times Hare Krishna mantra they have chanted? So spiritual bank balance we all have got, devotees have got. So similarly, Kardama he was actually a devotee, but initially he was a Kama Mishra Bhakta, not pure devotee. And he had some desire, because that was the situation when the beginning of the creation, where a lot of progeny had to be created. So and then lot of Prajapatis were there. They had the responsibility to expand different species in this material world. So then he had this desire that he should be part of bigger plan of the Supreme Lord in expanding so many species of life. And then later on, by rendering this particular assigned service to the Supreme Lord, which is authorized by was his father Lord Brahma and other great sages, that is his ultimate goal of life. Then that's how he can go to the supreme abode of the Lord. So he had lot of yoga shakti. He uses that yoga shakti, Kardamo Yogam Astitaha and Vimanam Kamagam Kshatta. So he creates an airplane, a mansion. So today scientists boast their achievements. Some aeronautical engineer may be there. We have created Boeing 747, different numbers which carries hundreds of thousands of people maybe in the sky. But nobody is sure whether it will land safely. It takes off, but it lands safely. Some engine failure will happen. Some device will malfunction. Nobody is having any assurance. It's a gamble. Okay, we have faith as a positive thing. We take it, and everybody is traveling. But that's how sometimes some mishaps happen, some accidents happen here and there. So in this material world, nobody can boast that it is 100% foolproof. So padam padam yat vipadamna tesham. Every step there is a danger. But what is the kind of airplane these great sages like Kardama Muni created? It is said here, Vimanam Kamagam Shattas Tarhi Eva Virachikarat. Eva Virachikarat. So it is said that this particular airplane was, it is not even mentioned as airplane. It's called aerial mansion that could travel at his will. And in further verses, there is great description about this mansion, that it was literally a whole city inside. There were waterfalls, there were palaces, there were rooms, there were so many people on that. So this is the kind of yogic powers people had. So Prabhupada mentions very interestingly in the purport, the sage Kardama was completely perfect in yoga. As the result of real yoga practice, there are 8 kinds of perfection. So then Prabhupada goes on to mention, so unless a yogi becomes perfect in his yogic practices or whatever tapasya, the procedure he had followed, he will not get this kind of result. Because Kardama Muni was a perfected sage, he had that tapashakti in his account, so he used it. Later on, he'll come to know towards the end that he will lament, because for thousands of years they continue to enjoy in this mansion and time just passes like a flash. And then he had to again accumulate. Anything we do in this material world, there is expending of energy. So similarly, when he got some aerial mansion, he had to expend a lot of great deal of his tapashakti, but nevertheless he was a devotee, and then later on he fully focuses on pure devotional service, and he goes back to Godhead. But Prabhupada is mentioning, unless some yogi is not perfect, he will not have any credit. Like we see different categories of yogis, different demigods, and different sages. Like for example, today is Ganesh Chaturthi. Lord Ganesha is there. He is one of the administrative rulers as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And there is a famous verse in Brahma Samhita also. There is a reference to Lord Ganesha. What is the reference? Yeah. Yatpada pallavam yagam vinitaya kumbha dvandve pranama samaye saganadi rajaha vidyan vihantu malamasya jagatrayasya govindam adi purusham tamam bhajami. So what is the role of Lord Ganesha is to remove the obstacles. Now he may be capable of removing material obstacles as well as spiritual obstacles. So now for a non-devotee, he is always seeking some success in his material endeavors. So that is why he is being worshipped. So for them he will sanction, okay, he becomes. So for devotees of Lord Krishna, specifically that's why Prabhupada installed Lord Narsimha Dev. Because Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. So Lord Ganesha also derives this power from Lord Krishna, Lord Narsimha specifically. That is why Narsimha worship is as good as requesting the Lord for removing all our obstacles in our spiritual life, as well as there could be prarabdha karma, some material problems will be there. So even for that actually Lord assures. So then there was a conversation. Then some devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, now if Lord Ganesha is capable of removing spiritual or material problems, can devotees also worship? So then Prabhupada said, no, why you want to divert? So instead of diverting to so many demigods and living entities or yogis, this, that, just our focus is only one thing: worship the Supreme Lord. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So that is sufficient. So naturally, Krishna's incarnations, worshipping Narsimha, that has got complete protection from all the material problems. But nevertheless, we should not disrespect any demigods, because they are also administrative. They are in administrative roles, duties. They are administrators of this material world. So somebody who cannot fully come to the stage of pure devotional service, so for them different options are there. They may get attached. They may take him as their Lord, have him as the role model. So Prabhupada also explains 8 kinds of perfection. The yogi can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest. So basically Prabhupada is explaining Anima, Lagima, Siddhi, and highest perfection among the 8 yogic perfections is that Kamaya Vasita. So basically whatever one desires, one can get. Somebody can control someone else's mind. Somebody may create a whole planet on his own. He can destroy also. So this may look like very amazing, but these are also actually temporary. Just like Lord Brahma is the living entity who has got highest duration in this material creation, because he is the one who created this entire material world, universe. So then his life itself is a flash when compared to Lord Mahavishnu. Just in one breathing cycle of Mahavishnu. So in this cycle of Mahavishnu, there are so many lakhs and lakhs of Brahmas come and go. So it is all description in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, 5th canto, different cantos of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And Bhagavad-gita, Krishna gives a glimpse, like what is the time scale of Lord Brahma. So why we celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi once in a year? Because it's actually Lord Ganesha is getting in everyday puja. But their time scale is Sahasra Yuga Parvantam Aharyad Brahmano Vidus. Just like Lord Brahma's age, the Brahma's time scale is so high. In the higher planetary systems below Brahma Loka, the demigods 6 months is equal, our 6 months is equal to their half day. So another our 6 months, that means total our 1 year is equal to 1 day as per the demigods calculation. So now because by the time they come here to receive and they go back, for us it is becoming 1 year, but every day they are getting that worship. So similarly, imagine Prabhupada has given us such a wonderful program, morning program. Every day in this material world we are worshipping Krishna, pure devotee, and Prabhupada's Guru Puja, chanting Hare Krishna mantra every day. So actually that is our greatest tapasya. That is our greatest bank balance, spiritual bank balance, by which we can easily go back to Godhead. And then Prabhupada concludes with this purport that yes, thus it was not very wonderful for Kardama Muni to create a mansion in the air according to his own desire to fulfill the desire of his beloved wife. He at once created the palace which is described in the following verses. And then later on Kardama Muni laments also that how he wasted time. Just like our Vaishnava Acharyas, so many times they have composed very beautiful songs, like one devotee Govinda Dasa, he has composed this particular song, Bhaja Hure Mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindore. So basically this Durlava Manava Janama Satsange Taroe Bhara Sindure. So after many lifetimes we have obtained this human form of life. Now what is the ultimate best utilization of this human life is Bhaja Hure Mana Shri Nanda Nandana, the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who is son of Nanda Maharaj, we have to worship. What happens by doing that? We will be freed from all fear, all anxieties. So there also he says that Shita Atapa Vatsa Parijana Ejani Jamini Jagire. So then Vifala Sevino Kripana Durjana. For some flickering happiness, we may have served our lust, greed, anger, so many so-called society, friendship, family, friends, love. But still I am unsatisfied. I will be eternally unsatisfied unless I serve the Supreme Lord of all Lords, that is Lord Sri Krishna. So this is the realization actually our Acharyas also having, and Prabhupada is very nicely, beautifully connecting that how sage Kardama Muni has created a whole mansion out of his yogic powers. So we should not get attracted to this small yogic powers of Kardama Muni. It's not very surprising. Actually, the real yogi is who? Krishna himself. Yogeshwara, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Parthu Dhanurdhara. Yogeshwara, the master of all yogis, is Krishna. And that Yogeshwara himself certifies who is the topmost yogi in Bhagavad-gita 6th chapter, the concluding verse in the Sankhya Yoga. He explains different, again it covers Ashtanga Yoga also as part of different yogic processes. But among all the Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Dhyana Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, the topmost who is Yoginam api sarvesha madgate na antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samay yuktato mata. So the topmost yogi is the Bhakti Yogi. So that is why we have the topmost Bhakti Yogi who is a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, who is giving very nice beautiful purports of other Mahabhagavatas, pure devotees like Vidura, Pandavas, Sage Maitreya. There are so many pastimes of pure devotees connected. And there is one, we can close with this small pastime about Prabhupada, that how Prabhupada was very focused and dedicated for serving his Guru's instructions word by word. Now we are reading this particular song also. Now we are celebrating Prabhupada's month, Jaladuta voyage, wherein he took so much of pain, although he had 2 heart attacks on the way, Jaladuta and the ship. He did not had resources to go by air. He went by ship for 32 days. He traveled to US. And then once it so happened that Prabhupada was getting little demoralized in the West, initial days 1966-67, and again in later on 72-73 due to some management issues, because as part of material world always the issues will be there. We cannot expect everything is 100% pakka everywhere. The ocean looks very peaceful, but when we go closer to that, we will see how rough it is. So many people have gotten drowned just because the ocean the waves have pulled them, but from far it looks very peaceful. So similarly, it may look like the world is greener on the other side. So but when we go into the details, there could be always pros and cons. There could be some advantages in something, some disadvantages in something. So Prabhupada, sometimes he had this issues coming up, some devotees bringing up some issues, that devotees like this complaining about that, complaining about this, and then Prabhupada actually says that whatever may be the issue, we have to just stick on this boat of Krishna consciousness. No matter what problems, we have to just continue our life, because death can come at any moment. We could be having few years or few days, few months left with us. So just somehow if we can continue with our duties, assigned duties, for the pleasure of Guru's system and Krishna, then actually we can easily cross over with this ship of Krishna consciousness. And not only that, Prabhupada ends with saying that I also did the same thing. So Prabhupada says that not that I didn't have any problems. So Prabhupada then refers to this problem that, pure devotee of the Lord, he had nobody, no financial support, no one to take care of him, alone in the ship with some unknown captain. He had 2 heart attacks, no doctors, but he had one friend with him always, that is the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna also, actually, Prabhupada mentions in his Krishna Tava Punya Habe Bhai. So, I had strong faith in your holy name. That is why actually I want to please my Guru, and I have faith in my Guru Maharaj Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that is why Prabhupada, became very successful in his life. So we should also pray that Prabhupada gives us his blessings and, a fragment of his consciousness and eagerness to serve our Guru. So, and that's how we can get our spiritual life also perfect. So we'll stop here. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.